You are listening to Packers Talk Radio Network.
PackersTalk.com. This Green Bay Packers podcast is brought to you by Mayfield Sports Marketing, our official sports marketing agent for player appearances. To book a Packers player for your next event, go to PackersTalk.com and click on Player Appearances. Are you looking for some signed Packer memorabilia?
Look no further than Waukesha Sports Card.
If the Green Bay Packer can sign it, Waukesha Sports Cards has it.
Check our website for upcoming Packer player and legend signings.
Go to WaukeshaSportsCards.com.
Good thing they didn't draft Max Williams, huh?
No, they have no need for just an athletic tight end by any means.
They didn't need a big game-breaking athletic tight end. No, they had Richard Rodgers, so.
Oh, boy.
We have seen big plays from Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers.
I'm at your service.
All season long.
Fast tempo, we got to bring some energy and some life in the crowd.
Mega Donuts Podcast.
Got to get this thing amped up.
With them great guys, Chris and Adam. Even Aaron likes them.
Are you kidding me? I love them.
You be reminded that for me it isn't over. Never mind, I'll find someone like you.
Hello, Packer Nation, hello, listeners and followers. I'm Adam Somers, joined by my bestest friend, Chris Lempesis. Lost for words, Chris. Lost for words.
Oh, Adele, you speak to the heartache inside me. Because, that song really does kind of sum up where we're at right now after last week. Just sad. Just sad and down in the dumps.
Dude, it was dark.
Dark times. Dark times on Sunday night.
Packers got their ass kicked, and I felt like I felt it too.
Yeah.
You know?
Gut
punch.
That's
not even like a gut punch, because a gut punch is like if they would have lost, if they all played the Broncos and found some way to lose it. It was just like dark alley, club over the head, and kept kicking you.
And they kept kicking you, and then they knocked you unconscious, and you wake up, and like your cell phone is gone, and your wallet's gone.
Just like, God damn it.
You wake up in a puddle of what you think is water, but it might be urine. Who knows? Where's my wallet? Did they take my cell phone too? Like, just a straight humiliating beatdown. There's
just an ass kick.
It was like, of all the things that could have happened in that game, if you had told me that was what was going to happen, I wouldn't have believed you. I would have been like, you're nuts. There's no way that Denver's that much better.
Yeah, and we talked about last week that there's a good chance that they're not going to win this game, and that's okay. But, man, I did not expect them to lose like this.
No, and you know what? Well said. I think that's the thing for me. It's like we said last week, we're like, well, don't panic, Packer fans. If they lose, Denver's really good. And then, but to lose that way, it's like I almost have to go back on everything I said. It's like to lose in such eye-opening fashion, I actually think that we should be pretty concerned. I'm not going to lie, I'm really concerned with where this team is at right now. I don't like damn near anything about where the Green Bay Packers are sitting at the moment, which we'll get into, but I'm not. It's tough. Was that the worst? Do you think that was the worst beatdown of the McCarthy era?
Oof. Of the McCarthy era?
Yeah. Or of the McCarthy and Rodgers era. Has to be, right?
Since Rodgers became a starting quarterback?
Yeah, let's not even include Favre. Let's just say since 2008. Because I didn't look at the... Because,
the first game that comes to my mind is when they got their asses handed to them by the Patriots in the McCarthy era when Rodgers had to play the fourth quarter because Favre got hurt.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And then didn't Rodgers break his foot?
Yeah.
Rodgers broke his foot. That was bad.
But I'm thinking when Rodgers, since he's become the starting quarterback, is that the worst beatdown? I can't think of any on the top of my mind. I'm not going to go. I really don't feel like going on Pro Football Reference right now and looking up box scores. But
the one that jumps out to me would be the Saints game. And Rodgers
last year?
No, Rodgers' first year against the Saints on Monday Night Football. Do you remember this?
Oh, yeah.
In New Orleans, it was, I think, right around Thanksgiving.
But that had a different feel to it because that was mostly the defense not doing anything.
Yeah, they were in that game for a little while too, and then it went off the rails, and they
This beatdown was different because Rodgers couldn't do anything. The whole offense was just a train wreck.
Oh, this is clearly offensively, it was the worst performance of the McCarthy-Rodgers era. But like, as a team, I think it is. I think it was the worst showing. I just think in terms of like, they were just so non-competitive in every aspect of the game that I can't remember happening any other time in the last 7 years.
Yeah, man, it's tough. Where do we go from here? And you almost wish that the bye week was this week.
Yeah, I actually like if they have to play. Yeah, you're right. If they have to play this week, I am glad it's against a good team because I just, in years past when they've lost, they've had tough losses, close, or they've been beaten handily, whatever. It seems like they always get some like bullshit team the next week. And then they win big, and it's like everybody kind of forgets about what happened in the loss. But I like that they're playing a good team this week. It's like, no bullshit. Let's see what you guys are made of. Like, that was a tough loss. There's no time to hang your head about it because you're playing another really good team on the road. So we'll get into that more when we talk about Carolina later. But I think we're going to learn exactly what kind of team this is this week.
It could go two ways, and we'll get into the preview later. But they're not going to get any reprieve. It's not like they're facing the Lions like they are in 2 weeks.
Right.
Carolina's defense is right up there. I don't think anyone's as good as Denver this year defensively. Their defense is ridiculous. Carolina's still probably a top 10 defense.
Someone was saying on ESPN.com today, I can't remember who it was. I just saw the headline. But someone was saying that they think that this Broncos defense might be better than the Seahawks defense from a couple years ago that won the Super Bowl. And I'm like, well, based on what I saw Sunday night, I'm not inclined to argue. But
talent-wise, they're right up there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're really good. But I don't want to take anything away from Denver because they have a great defense. But like I said, I have a lot of concerns with this team. And I think Denver brought to light all of the sort of lingering concerns we may have had about this offense in particular.
Yeah.
They brought it to the light and showed that there's a lot wrong with this Packers offense like right now.
Where do you want to begin in the offense? I want to start right up front. What happened to our dominating offensive line?
Yeah, you know what? That's as good a place as any to start. Yeah, they've regressed. There's no nice way to say it. This offensive line is and it's so disappointing because the way they closed last season where they got better and better and better every week. And you really thought this might be the best offensive line McCarthy's ever had. Like, I really thought they were poised to become the best offensive line in football. And not only has that not happened, they've regressed across the board and are not playing very well.
It starts, I think, at the tackle position. You could say that we're in year 3 of David Bakhtiari. And we were really impressed with him as a rookie. And even so much last year as a 4th-round pick, kind of out of nowhere, took the job and ran with it. Was decent last year on the up and up. But he's really taken a step back. You almost have to wonder, at that time, we were really high on him. Were we really high on him because of his actual talent? Or in comparison to what was before him?
I think that's...
And Derek Sherrod and Marshall Newhouse. Based on what we had to compare it with, he obviously looked awesome, but...
Right.
Now what we know is he's a 4th-round pick, and maybe he's just best suited to be a spot starter. You know, he definitely has talent to be in the league and probably start for a lot of teams. But for a team that has Super Bowl aspirations, is he your starting left tackle, or is he kind of like a better version of Don Barclay?
I mean, and that's a great way to put it. It's just. I was thinking about it earlier this week, and I had sort of almost the exact same thought that you just said. That, you know what, in the end, he might just be a 4th-round pick. A 4th-round pick that showed promise, that we thought was going to take off, and it's clear that his play has at best plateaued, and at worst is declining already. I don't think we had our 3-man text thread, you and me and our old pal Gino this week, talking about the trade deadline, and if, obviously Ted wouldn't do it, but would you go get Joe Thomas, and what would it cost? Because Cleveland wanted 2 1s, and I said, well, what if the Packers offered Bakhtiari in a 1?
I'd do
And
it.
Gene was saying he thought that was too steep, and you were saying you would do it, and I was like, I would do it too.
And apparently Denver came close.
Yeah, they came
to
close on
getting
a
Joe
1.
Thomas.
It was a 1 and a 4, and then they were going to send a 4 back.
I think so. I think they were going to swap 4s or get a future 4.
I think that's what it was. They were going to swap 4s, and then Denver would toss in their first-round pick. Which I was like, if I had been the Packers and that was the deal, I would have made it.
Yeah, and if Cleveland wanted to swap 3rds, why not?
Absolutely. Because Joe Thomas is only 30 years old.
He has 7 or 8 more years left in him. He's been really healthy his whole career. And
he has at least 3 or 4 years at an extremely high level. And then probably, like you said, and then another 2 or 3 years at a high level.
Yeah.
But Bakhtiari hasn't been very good. And you know who's really been bad the last couple of weeks, I think, has been Josh Sitton.
Yeah, that's kind of depressing.
He's been the stalwart. He's been Mr. Reliable. As good as it gets. One of the best, if not the best, interior lineman in the game. And I don't think he's been very good at all.
Corey Linsley has hit a sophomore slump.
I think so.
TJ Lang has been up and down.
Yeah. And Balaga, when he's been healthy, he's been okay, but he hasn't been great. There isn't anybody on that group that I can say has had a really great season.
No.
And I think it's affecting Rodgers a little bit. He just looks skittish. You know what I mean? And it's like right away, too. It's like as soon as the ball is snapped. I know they faced some good pass rushes the last couple weeks, or specifically St. Louis and Denver, but do you know what I mean? Don't you get that sense watching Rodgers? He just looks skittish right from the snap. Looks nervous. A lot of jumping around in the pocket. And I wonder if it's because he doesn't trust these guys up front.
Mm-hmm. Which is sad to say that it's not like it's a new offensive line with a lot of moving parts. It's the same offensive line from all of last year.
That's what I can't figure out. It's like
and in some cases in the past, when say Sherrod's been forced in lineup, you understand why Rodgers is skittish. Still the same 5 stars last year, and outside of Linsley, none of them are rookies or second-year guys. They are all 3 years in the league or more.
And none of them are old either.
Yeah.
It's not like any of these guys got long in the tooth all of a sudden.
It's not like it's a whole lot of moving parts in an offensive line, you know?
I just don't.
There's no reason for Rodgers to be skittish besides just their piss poor play.
So that's been a concern. I said it. I was saying it on Twitter during the game Sunday night, and actually I'm writing about it. Preview for WTMJ this week. It's really Sunday was more. I mean, it's becoming more and more obvious, but Sunday was the most obvious. They missed Jordy Nelson bad, real bad. His absence is like a pebble that's caused this. When you throw a pebble into a lake, this gigantic ripple effect is starting to hit the entire offense. I think from not having Jordy Nelson.
Yeah,
they have no semblance of a deep game. And they keep trying to develop one. I don't know why, because they don't have one. But they keep trying these 7-step drops, these long developing plays. But they don't have a deep game, which is forcing them to go short. And, they were doing it early in the year. But as you saw, Denver has really good corners. But even teams that don't have good corners are frustrating the Packers wide receivers because they're just jamming the hell out of them. And these are not guys who are good at getting separation.
Yeah, you'd hope that... And I'm kind of lost for words because they need a deep threat. And is there one on this roster realistically? Montgomery's hurt, but he's not really a deep threat. I think they hoped Adams would be, and maybe he still is. Maybe he just ran into a tough secondary and he was overwhelmed, which it's true. He was overwhelmed.
He was.
Can he get better? Yeah, you hope so.
But I mean,
they needed him to get better.
Didn't you talk about it? Was it you that was talking about this? Was it on our bye week show where we were talking about Adams and you were saying you were just starting to wonder if this whole season was just going to be a wash for him?
Yeah.
I think it is. I'm starting to worry that that's going to be the case here. That it's just going to be a lost sophomore year for him. Because he's healthy now and he's not making any impact. He didn't make any impact on Sunday night in a game where they needed him to.
I'm ready to give him another week or two after the Detroit game because that's a tough game to come back against.
That's
on the
true.
road against Denver's defense. Let's see how he performs this week. If he's invisible again against Carolina, then I think we can press the panic button just a little bit. We can make it warm. But my belief still agrees. I think it very well could be a lost season. I really do.
These guys, you know what I mean? There's just, this receiving group is just not. They're not the best. I mean, Cobb is, but James Jones and Adams. I mean, these are not the fastest, quickest guys. Like, they're not. So the fact that like you can't go deep, defenses are just playing everything up on these guys. They can't get separation. That's really hurt, I think. Should we talk about the quarterback?
We can't.
Oh, we can't. That's right. We can't say anything bad about Aaron Rodgers.
Not allowed to say anything about Aaron Rodgers, who had less than 100 yards passing.
I think it's fair. I think no matter how good the quarterback is, if you throw for 77 yards in this day and age when everything is designed to help the quarterback, you are fair game.
I'll let you have first crack.
He is. How do I say this?
He sucked.
Well, he sucked. That's the obvious one.
He looked disinterested.
He did look disinterested.
He looked annoyed.
Let's talk about that. No, that's a good place to start the disinterested thing. Listen, I know everybody leads differently, and I hate to make this comparison because people are gonna get pissed. When you watch the Patriots, if they have like a slow start or a flat start or a sluggish start, whatever word you want to use, you will more often than not see Tom Brady on the sidelines trying to fire his guys up, getting in the offensive lineman's face, trying to pump the receivers up, right? Mm-hmm. And more often than not, the Pats, they hit that switch and they get going. Packers were as flat could be. They just did not look like they gave a shit from the jump on Sunday night. Where is Aaron Rodgers, the MVP? Sitting on the sideline, like you said, looking disinterested as shit, with his arms out on the bench, feet up, or whatever. Ball cap, not hardly even saying a word. Or at least when the camera showed him. You know what I mean? And I not that everybody needs to be like Brady, and I don't think Rodgers needs to be that way all the time. But I think Sunday night would have been a good time for that. And he just didn't get it from 12.
Do you know who I'm gonna give you a few names. Have you looked at before we do this game, week 8's stats. Weekly stats.
Okay.
Leaders. You haven't looked at the week leaders, right?
No.
I'm gonna give you a couple of names, and you tell me if they threw for more passing yards than Aaron Rodgers.
Okay.
Let's start with an easy one. Drew Brees.
Yes.
He threw 505. Eli Manning.
Yes.
Personal favorite of yours.
I started Eli Manning, for those who don't know, the greatest fantasy decision I've ever made in my life. I benched Russell Wilson finally, and I started Eli Manning on Sunday.
And you won.
And I won.
Easily.
I won by almost 100 points. I'll never make a better fantasy decision in my life.
Let's make this a little harder. Geno Smith or Aaron Rodgers?
Geno Smith.
Brian Hoyer.
Yes. Hoyer.
So far, so good. Nick Foles.
Yes.
Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah?
Yes. Alex Smith.
London. Yeah, I know Smith did.
Yes. Jameis Winston.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. Zach Mettenberger.
Holy shit. No.
Yes, he did.
Oh, my God. Mettenberger.
By 100 yards, roughly.
Oh, my God.
Matt Castle.
Yes. But it was close, I bet.
Yep. By 20. He had by 20.
Yeah, because he was terrible.
Yeah. Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, busted thumb and all. Yes.
No,
he didn't.
Fitz left the game when he was 4 for 5 for 46 yards, and Geno Smith took over. Oh. You know why I brought up Fitzpatrick? Because every quarterback who played the entire game or more than half the game, threw for more passing yards than Aaron Rodgers. There's no one that threw for less passing yards than Aaron Rodgers that completed the game.
God.
Fitz was close, and then you have a couple guys who have like 10 or 12 yards passing. I'm not even joking. Rodgers had 77 yards. There was Castle at 97, and then Alex Smith at 145. He had the least amount of passing yards of any starting quarterback last week.
And now now that I've talked about how I thought his leadership, I thought he showed crummy leadership on Sunday night. Let's talk about the on-field stuff. I get that Rodgers wants to be smart with the football, that he does not want to throw interceptions. I have a theory on this. I think it's because he followed Favre and he wants desperately to be the anti-Favre in that area. Fine, whatever. I get that. But his conservative nature is really hurting this offense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sunday night, there were throws to be made, tight throws, tight windows, super tight windows in some cases, but windows. And he just won't throw it. He just didn't throw it. Because he's too concerned about not turning the ball over.
That, and you gotta look what he's throwing at. Besides Cobb, who can he trust? Jones, I think the time is running out on James Jones. I really do.
You think it struck midnight for Cinderella?
Yeah, and you know when we talked about Jones at the beginning of the year, he said, "What if he can just hold court till Adams gets healthy, and Montgomery finds his way?" And it's about that time. We just need Montgomery to now get healthy and Adams to find his way, so the roles have been reversed a little bit. We can't count on James Jones being a number 2 receiver in this offense. It's no production from the tight end either. Kind of missable on Richard Rodgers.
That doesn't help. We can get to Rich Rodgers in a second here. But Aaron Rodgers, I mean, it's funny too. I tweeted this on Sunday night. I said, well, he's just too conservative, Rodgers.
Yeah.
I get that he wants to and his sort of conservative nature is fine when you're loaded at receiver, or you have even just like last year with Jordy Nelson and Randall Cobb. But when the chips are down a little bit at the receiver position, and they are right now, you have to change your thinking. And Rodgers just isn't doing that. I thought McGinn said it well in his game ratings. Interceptions don't necessarily equal defeat. And how do we know that? This is me talking now. How do we know that? Because our last quarterback threw more interceptions than anybody in the history of football. What else did he
He was all right.
What else did he throw? More touchdowns. What else did he do? Won more games than anybody else ever. So this idea that, like, you can't throw picks. Like, yeah, it looks great at the end of the season to say Rodgers threw 39 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. But how many times has he hurt or outright killed this team by hanging onto the ball too long, being too unwilling to throw into tight windows and give his receivers a chance? And he's done that too. Look at Sunday. Look at the 2 Seattle games last year.
Yeah.
And that's what worries me, because when you get into the playoffs, at some point, you're going to encounter a defense who plays you like these teams do.
And you need to take chances sometimes to win.
Right.
Because you can't make the glorious play if you don't thread the needle a little bit. Rodgers has 2 picks all year. That's great. He's, does he have more natural talent than Tom Brady? Yeah, but he's never going to be Tom Brady, I don't think.
No.
Not at this point of his career.
No, we already said after the Seattle game who we think Rodgers is. After the NFC Championship game, we think he's Peyton Manning. Mm-hmm. And that I mean that in both a good sense and maybe a not so good sense.
Yeah, Manning was a very successful quarterback, but only won 1 Super Bowl.
Right. And
and he had very gaudy stats, and everyone claimed him to be the best quarterback of his generation, one of the best in the league, one of the best, Hall of Fame quarterbacks. And that's all very, very true about Peyton Manning, and the same can be said for Aaron Rodgers. But he kind of lacks that killer instinct. He's almost kind of that happy-go-lucky.
Right.
Like he won't get in a guy's face. He'd rather smile and joke about it. I'm just looking at a few stats this year.
He lacks that thing that Brady has, that Joe Montana had, that I'm going to cut your heart out. He doesn't have it. Just like Manning never had it. It's like you said, like Rodgers is already going down the Manning path of he's going to have big regular seasons. Probably won't do that well in the playoffs because he hasn't since they won the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. Won't do that well in the playoffs. Everybody will go, oh, another tough playoff for Aaron Rodgers. And then then we get back to the summer and everybody forgets. And it's like, oh, Aaron Rodgers, look out for him this season. Yeah, because he'll have a big regular, it's just.
And he'll probably rack up another couple MVPs too, and along the way.
Sure. But if you were to tell me right now, over under 0.5 Super Bowls for Aaron Rodgers, I would probably bet the under. I'm not sure.
things need to break the right way, and this is a year that it could break the right way for the NFC.
Yeah, it could. But the thing about the NFC that worries me is we talk about like teams that have great corners that can cover the hell out of the ball. There's a couple in the NFC. There's one that they're going to play on Sunday, and the Arizona Cardinals.
And those are their two top challengers, you see. And you know what?
And what happens if Rodgers gets in a playoff game there? On the road, where he's especially been really bad the last couple of years. I heard on the local radio sports talk the other day, he's 0 for his last 9 in road games against teams that made the playoffs the previous year. He hasn't won a road game against a team that made the playoffs year before since, are you ready for this? That Sunday night game against Houston in 2012.
Oof. It's been a while.
Which is the day that you, I believe, proposed to your wife. Your now wife, right?
Yes. Yeah, we've been married for
and you've been married,
well over 2 years.
You've been married for 2 years, and you were engaged for almost a year. So, to put that in perspective, that's kind of a long goddamn time. And that's my worry is what happens if you get if it's the playoffs and you got to go play the NFC Championship game in Arizona against a really good group of corners. You going to play the same way you played Sunday night? Because if you did, you might as well not even show up. I'm sorry, you were saying you were looking. I interrupted you. You were looking at some numbers.
I don't remember. It doesn't matter anymore.
I'm sorry.
It doesn't matter. But you know what would help Aaron Rodgers out though?
What's that?
With the lack of a deep threat and injuries in this receiving core. I mean, if we want to cut Rodgers some slack, besides Randall Cobb, if a good defense negates Cobb, there's really not much for him to work with. Because Richard Rodgers is terrible.
Oh, we even
Adams,
mentioned Richard Rodgers. We can talk about him.
He's terrible.
Can people stop? Packer fans need to collectively stop with the Richard Rodgers could be a threat thing. He is nothing special.
Now we all know why they did not put Corliss on season-ending IR.
Can you believe this? They actually really miss Andrew Corliss. We laughed about it at the time. Like, why are they using that spot on Corliss? It's like, I get it now. At least Corliss is decent. Richard Rodgers is terrible.
Yeah.
Or at least he's playing terrible lately. Good thing they didn't draft Max Williams, huh?
No, they have no need for just an athletic tight end by any means.
They didn't need a big game-breaking athletic tight end. No, they had Richard Rodgers, so.
Kind of makes you long for the days of J-Mike.
More than
you know?
Yeah, at least, I mean, Finley had hands of stone, but at least Finley was athletic and could get open.
Yeah.
And at least would give you a shot at making a big play before he would inevitably drop it. But so what? At least he got open.
At least he was there.
At least he tried. Richard Rodgers can't block. His hands aren't reliable. Like I was a little bit.
Yeah, man.
I was worried about that. I was worried about the tight end position coming into the season. I thought people were maybe overhyping Rodgers a little too much, and turns out they are.
And Montgomery's hurt. He shows some flashes.
He was starting to emerge too right before he got hurt.
Yeah, and Adams, he hasn't played with Rodgers all year. You know,
right.
You're down to you take Cobb out of the game, and he's thrown to James Jones, whose clock has struck midnight pretty quickly. I know over the last few weeks, and a recovering Devontae Adams and a slow and unathletic, uninterested bust third-round pick Richard Rodgers.
I was a little bit shocked as that game went on that they didn't at least attempt to work Aberderis and Janison in some sense.
You thought at some point they would take a shot with Janison on the field.
And I don't mean like I'm not talking obviously like supplanting them in the starting lineup or anything, but I mean, shit, man. By the second quarter, certainly early third, you knew the wide receivers they had weren't getting it done. I was like, in that case, maybe put Aberderis and Janison even for like a handful of plays just to switch it up and give the defense a new look. You know what I mean? Like, I was really surprised they didn't work them in more. Once that game was headed to blowout town, I was like, why don't they work these guys in a little bit?
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's this receiving core. Adams needs to get healthy. Montgomery needs to get healthy, and that's the only chance they got. And unless we'll do a nice segue.
The Packers trade for Steve Smith. Oh, wait. The deadline's passed. Oh, wait, Smith blew his Achilles out.
Yeah. That's a double whammy right there.
Never mind.
Well, should we talk about the rumor that was slightly floating around?
That.
Bringing another member of the band back together.
Oh, it's a great. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, Mr. Jennings.
Well, when our pal Gino brought it up in our group text, all I said was, "Can he get open?" Because I don't know if anybody in this receiving corps can get open. So if Jennings,
maybe it was just a rumor we were self talking about. But more and more, I gave it some thought. I'm like, God, that would be interesting. That would be kind of funny.
I'm like, I'm willing to forget everything he did as long as he can come in and get open like he used to. I don't care what he said about Rodgers. I'm not friends with Aaron Rodgers. I'm like, I want to win games.
James Jones gave us 6 weeks. Can Jennings give us 9 weeks?
Probably, or at least
yeah.
He's basically buried. I mean, he's basically dead in Miami. I mean,
yeah, he's not playing.
He's not
at all. He's the fourth or fifth option down there.
You know, the thing is too, it's like we talk about the offense, and people are probably like, "Hey, when are you guys going to get to the defense?" We will. But the thing is, to me, everything with this Packers team feeds off of the offense, right?
Yeah.
Like the defense has played like shit, obviously. Anytime you give up over 1,000 yards in 2 games, that's bad. But like, are we really that surprised? I mean, this Packers defense will only be as good as the offense allows it to be.
That's entirely correct.
And when the offense plays like crap, you're going to get a defense that plays like crap. And you, my friend and co-host, nailed it. When did you say this? Was it?
Oh, what did I say?
When we were talking about I think it was when after our bye week. So during the bye week, when you were talking about Capers and you were saying you were worried that this thing wasn't going to hold. It was either during the bye week or it was right after that hot start. I don't know. At some point you were saying you were just worried that this wasn't going to hold.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what I said, but I did talk about it. It's what has given us this idea that this is going to have sustaining power.
That's what. I think it was after the San Francisco game. It might have been. And
you had to look like who they were playing too, and that made me worried that they were playing really good against crappy teams.
Yep.
And outside of Matthews, there's still a lack of. I mean, Perry's hurt, so there goes that, and Peppers is having a solid season, but there still seems like a lack of pop on the front seven, and we praise all the young talent, but I still have concerns about the depth of this team. It's going to get challenged again. We like Mike Pennell, but he's no B.J. Raji. We like Nate Palmer, but he's okay. Joe Thomas, man. Are we going right into the defense right now?
Yeah, we might as well. I mean, we might as well bleed into it because we've talked about how the offense has struggled and that the defense is only as good as the offense will allow it. But we should talk. I mean, over 1,000 yards. Over 1,000 yards in 2 weeks. This group, did they even give up 1,000 yards in like their first 3 or 4 games? I don't know, but it's really bad. As good as it was early in the season, that's as shitty as it's been now.
Yeah, not that we should be surprised, but Joe Thomas is not that
great. Surprise, Packer fans. Joe Thomas and Nate Palmer aren't very good.
Yeah. Casey Hayward won't be getting another contract.
Yeah, I agree with you. I saw enough Sunday night to think that we talked about that too, that we didn't think he was going to be back a couple weeks ago. But I saw enough Sunday night to be convinced that he's not coming back.
Injuries are going to hurt the secondary. I mean, we have to hope Hayward improves because with Shields and Rollins being out, Randall had an up and down game.
You know what I like about Randall though? McGinn said, again to quote McGinn, said this very well. He never stops battling. His confidence never wavers in himself. Like he might get torched a couple times, but then he'll come back and get a pick. I like that as a rookie because rookie cornerbacks, Ahmad Carroll, can have their confidence shattered pretty fast. And I like that Randall is like just going to keep battling. You might get me, but I'm going to get you. I'm like, Christ, at least somebody's showing some fight on this team.
He was actually one of the few bright spots, I'd say, even though he got burnt a few times, you know.
Yeah. I mean, and the Hayward thing, you know, and it's such typical Packer defensive arrogance. Oh, are you a really good slot corner? Do you think you could play outside? Oh, no, you can't. Well, we're going to have you play there anyway. Oh, are you a defensive end? Can you play safety? Like, this thing where they take guys and put them in spots where they're not supposed to be. Hayward is a slot corner. Because it was clear, right, from the jump that Manning had spent all week going, there's my guy. All week,
Yeah.
Manning and Thomas were like, we're going to go right at Casey Hayward. And they did.
One of the biggest mismatches we've seen in a while.
Because they won't play, and that's the other thing, they won't play matchups of their corners.
Which they should.
You would think if you're paying Sam Shields $9.5 million a year, you would think you would say, hey, Sam, go cover Demaryius Thomas. But they like to have their corners. You play one side and you play the other, and whoever lines up there, which I think is asinine. But
You're not the Seattle Seahawks.
I know, right?
You have one really good corner until Rowland develops that you still only have one really good corner. He should be covering the best receiver. Now this week in Carolina they won't have that problem, but we can talk about the run defense because that's going to be an issue that comes to light even more this week. I
think that was a real eye-opener for me, too.
I'm in a few fantasy football leagues, like everyone is. My two main leagues. Spent high draft picks and a lot of money on a guy named C.J. Anderson who I cut.
Oh, yeah.
Because I thought C.J. Anderson was completely dead. C.J. Anderson over 100 yards rushing. He had his first good game the whole year. Hillman looked good. He had a couple of TDs. Denver's running game has been an utter mess all year.
Terrible.
And somehow they found their footing against Green Bay.
With a patchwork offensive line, too.
Yes.
That's the thing about the defense that really scares me because, the passing defense had been the defense as a whole had been pretty good coming into this game, minus the pass defense performance against Phillip Rivers. It'd been pretty good. Giving up yardage to Peyton Manning, that even at his state that he's in now, that doesn't bother me. It's the fact that they got straight up run on by what like you said, was a terrible rushing offense. They got straight owned. And no excuses this time either. No, Morgan Burnett's hurt. B.J. Rodgers hurt. That's what really scares me. Is like everybody minus the stretch where Matthews was out. Everybody's healthy on this defense. Certainly in terms of key players against the run, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, Shields left and Rollins left, but in terms of front seven guys and safeties, everybody was healthy. So no excuses this time. They got owned by a terrible ground game. That's the thing that worries me. Because I figured it would be kind of a half a year, 3/4 year struggle to get everybody acclimated at corner, especially with the young guys. Mm-hmm. But I thought the run defense was going to be good. And after a really good start, they've now been lit up in 2 of their last 3 games.
Yeah, and it's not going to get any easier with Carolina this week.
No. Well, at least the Packers have shown an ability to cover tight ends. That's good.
Yeah.
And Carolina doesn't really have Greg Olsen. Yeah.
That guy.
That guy, Greg Olsen. Remember him? Yeah.
I guess about 15 targets a game.
Yeah, that's yeah, I'm looking at the stats now. He's been targeted 62 times this year. Holy shit.
Yeah, man.
It's Cam
knows what he's doing. He's like, I got one good receiver and I'm gonna stick with him.
Yeah. Did you watch Monday night?
No, I didn't.
Did you see the replay of the Ted Ginn Jr. drop?
No, I did not.
Oh. Was it overtime? It was either overtime or late in regulation, Carolina. I think it was overtime after Indianapolis got a field goal. Newton just uncorked a perfect bomb to Ginn, and Ginn dropped it. Like, Ginn was open. It was, like, right in his hands. I was like, this is why Ted Ginn is a journeyman. You want to know why Ted Ginn's a journeyman? Because Gruden was, of course, hyping him up. He makes, like, 2 good plays, and Gruden's like, Ted Ginn Jr., let me tell you what. And then it's like...
He peaked his freshman year in college.
And then, like, he drops that bomb, like, yeah, this is why he's on his 18th team, because he can't catch.
18's not far off, man.
He's been on... How many teams has he been on? San Francisco, Miami, at least 3.
He's been on... He got drafted by Miami, free agent San Francisco, did a stint with Carolina in 2013, was on Arizona last year, then back in Carolina. So he's only been on 4 teams.
So 4 teams.
4 teams, but he's on his second tour with the Panthers.
Teams playing college.
Okay,
He was
guess
playing
how-
college
guess-
ball when we were in college. That wasn't that long ago.
2006.
2006, so within, like, what? He got drafted in, what, 07?
Yeah, his 9th overall pick.
Man.
Oh, he actually did catch 790 yards pass in his sophomore year, or his second year in Miami.
I mean, he shows flashes of being really good, but clearly they wanted him to be the deep threat only. Opposite Benjamin and Olsen, but then Benjamin tore his knee up in training camp. I'm really impressed with Cam Newton. I watched a good portion of that game on Monday night. I've actually watched Carolina a few times this year. I'm really impressed with Cam Newton. He really, it sounds crazy to say this, but I feel like he's just now learned how to play quarterback.
Cam Newton's he's a special player because he's
always been.
He has no one to work with, and he's okay with that. Like, he does it all, and he doesn't turn over the ball that much, which I think is key. That's the key thing with Newton is he doesn't turn the ball over.
Right.
Newton has, looking at the stats for this year, he does have 8 interceptions this year. I guess I stand corrected.
I mean, the numbers. To me, the numbers I'm looking at him too: 11 touchdowns, 8 picks. 70.
Yeah, I guess he does
rating.
turn the ball over.
It's not a super, like, those aren't the most impressive numbers, but just when I watch him, it feels like in the past, and I get it because he's so physically gifted, he kind of would lean too much on his physical talents, and it never felt like he knew how to really play quarterback. But now it feels like he really, just like the confidence, the way his vibe seems better, he seems to trust his guys. And then you throw in his insane physical talents, and it's like, it's going to be a problem on Sunday.
What's more important, stopping Jonathan Stewart or Cam Newton, or are they one and the same?
Well, I think you got to stop. I mean,
they're kind of one and the same.
Yeah. You
look at Carolina; they do nothing really, really extraordinary, impressive.
Offensively,
they run offensively.
Yeah.
They run the ball. They run down the clock. They keep your offense off the field. They win time possession, and they play very, very sound defense.
That's the thing about Carolina that really worries me coming into this game, and the players talked about it after their game on Monday night. The interviews I watched, and Gruden talked about it a lot during the game too. That team has an identity. Speaking of it, just what you just said, that they know who they are. Like, they're not trying to be the New England Patriots with this flashy offense. They're not even really trying to be the Denver Broncos with this insane defense. Like you said, we're going to come in, we're going to try to run the ball, just good enough. We're going to have Cam play, just good enough. He's been better than that, but you get what I'm saying. We're going to run the ball, keep your defense on the field. Cam's getting better. He can lean on Olsen. Ginn can beat you deep. That puts our defense in good spots, and it's a super talented defense. Like, does this make sense?
Yeah.
Like, they know who they are. There's no, they're not worried about stats. I think Luke Kuechly said that after the game on Monday night, too. Like, we're not worried about winning pretty. We don't care about stats or numbers. All we want is the W. Those are tough teams to play against.
Mm-hmm. And it's on the road.
Yep.
And is Ron Rivera a better coach than Mike McCarthy at this point?
He might be. I've had such a hot and cold love affair with Mike McCarthy. It's cold right now. It's cold as ice right now. Mike and I are off at the moment. We are not on. Because he's got his work cut out for him. Him and Clements and Rodgers have their work cut out for them. And Edgar Bennett planning against this is a talented defense. Davis. Obviously, we all know Kuechly's a stud, right? But Davis. Jared Allen has been chipping in a little bit here and there since he got traded. Lutele is a very good player. Short's having a really good season. And then the corner, Josh Norman, maybe the best corner in the league this year.
Yeah, he's really come out of nowhere.
12 passes defended.
So theoretically, you're gonna see him on Cobb.
In addition to his 4 picks, but he's 12 passes defended, and I imagine that they'll play matchup football, and put him on Cobb, And Tillman's had really having a comeback year when people thought he was done. The injuries were going to force him out of the game. He's come back and he's contributing. He's playing well. I love that they have Tillman and Jared Allen on their defense. I feel like we need to get like an old Packer, like Nick Barnett, and like an old Lion.
Nick Barnett and
I was gonna say Robert Porcher, but he's too old.
I don't know which old Lion would you. They ain't many.
You're damn right, there ain't many. Who would I pick? Like an old Lion, like a Lions defender from like the mid 2000s. I don't even know.
I don't know either, man. They're really, really bad.
Tweet us suggestions at Old Bag of Donuts at what is it? I always forget. Somers _time.
Yeah.
Tweet us an old Lion suggestion we can add to the NFC.
Is Louis Delmas too young?
No, I can see we could put Delmas. Well, they already have Roman Harper at safety. He's old as shit. So, So there you go. We'll get Louis Delmas and Nick Barnett and throw them on the defense, and they could be the decrepit NFC North All Stars. It's
kind of like the Arizona Cardinals of the East, that all these kind of what you would think be washed up veterans just show up in Carolina. It works out.
All of a sudden, it's working out pretty well. Yeah. Because that's a really good defense, It's really, like you said, they might be a notch below Denver, but not even, maybe like a half notch below Denver. It's a really good defense. Mm-hmm. They can fly around, man. And they cover, they do everything you would want. And for a Packers offense that's appeared to have hit rock bottom, it's not the best matchup.
So what do they have to do? I think defensively they can kind of have a bounce back game almost, because this won't be a high power offense. They do have to stop the run, but I don't think they really have to focus on the pass besides Olsen. But what they have to do to beat Carolina? Like what realistically can they bounce back with? Because it's
offense,
not like it's not like they strolled in one area or the other.
You know what I think
it's a complete utter train wreck. They're almost starting from scratch.
You know what I think they need to do, and you just started off what I was going to say. They need to start from scratch, and a lot of us have played Pop Warner. Certainly, you and I have. What's the thing you focus on in Pop Warner as an offense? Running off. This team needs to get back to basics on offense, and they need to realize they have a horse at running back, and I actually think Lacey is close to 100% now. I thought he looked good on Sunday night. They need to get back to the basic building blocks and start by running the football and being committed to running the football, not running it 11 times or 12 times or 13 times. They need to I know Mike doesn't want to run Lacey 20 or 25 times. Sunday might be the game to do it. Mm-hmm. I think if your passing game is struggling, then you run the ball to open things up.
And I actually thought the running game, I think with the game flow on this past Sunday, they had to pass more. And I said the running game, it had its moments against a really good defense. But
it's not just
it's now or never.
It's not just Sunday though. No, and you're right. But it's not just Sunday. It feels like the whole season. Look at the San Diego game, right? San Diego had a terrible run defense. Starks came out like gangbusters, and what happened? They immediately went away from the run. Like McCarthy, for all his talk about wanting to be balanced, I still think all these years into his coaching career, he doesn't really want to run the football. Well, you might have to this week.
And for how good of a solid defense Carolina is, they are 20th against the run.
Yep.
They're 7th against the pass. They're 20th against the run. Can you convince Rodgers to buy into this game plan, Chris?
I don't know. And that's the other thing too. It's not just McCarthy. It's Clements and Rodgers too. They don't really want to run. But I think it would really benefit them this week. Like you said, not a great run defense. You can run at them. You don't have to do it for 4 quarters, but at least early in the game, I think you have to really lean heavily that way. And then if you can run the ball, that'll open up things in the passing game, master of the obvious. And then once that happens, maybe the group starts to get their confidence back a little bit. And you can get into a rhythm, and then things can start rolling back to where they were. But I just think with the passing offense now to come into this game and be like, all right, well, Eddie, we're gonna run it 15 times, Aaron, you're gonna throw it 35 times. I think if they do that, I don't think it's gonna go well.
And it could be a bounce back for the offensive line. It goes back to what we talked at the beginning of the podcast.
Yep.
It's going to start with was supposed to be the strength of this team. This game could go one in two ways. It's going to be Green Bay's going to come back with a vengeance, beat Carolina, prove that last week was a little bit of an aberration. They just ran into a buzzsaw and a great Denver defense. I just out game planned them coming off the bye. Or it's going to be a struggle. It's going to be just like last week. Maybe not to an extent where the Panthers are going to be throwing the ball very successfully because they don't have the weapons. Or, as good as Cam Newton is, he's still not the same player as Peyton Manning.
No, that's true.
But could this turn into be a 19-10, 19-13 type of game? Yeah. You could see this turning into be just as ugly as last week. It's run the ball early, run the ball often, get Lacey going, see what you have with Lacey going forward. Not for talent-wise or career-wise or anything like that. When I say going forward, just health-wise.
Right.
Is he back to where he needs to be?
Yeah.
But it could, and if that's the way, you're gonna win this. You're gonna grind out this game, and Rodgers will open up the pass. I think one of the things that was a detriment last week was that the game got away from that. They couldn't run the ball to open a pass. As silly as this sounds in an Aaron Rodgers ran offense, is that you need a running game to open up the pass. And so many years past, it wasn't. It was kind of the opposite. You'd have the passing game open up the running game, and you find this nice balance. But yeah, Aaron needs a little bit of help.
Because you said it's never been this way in years past. I think it's just because, like we said, the chips are down at wide receiver. Mm-hmm. In years past, he's always had. Look at like the embarrassment of riches he had in 2011, right?
Yeah.
Or even last year, like I said, with Nelson and Cobb both topping 1,000 yards, and Devontae Adams being a guy who got better and better as his rookie year went on. That was a fair embarrassment of riches. Maybe not quite on the 2011 level, but still, he had a ton to work with. He doesn't have that this year. And that's like you were saying about it's going to be different this year, and it has to be different this year. And Mike and Tom Clements, again, and Edgar Bennett and Rodgers have to realize things have to be run a little differently this year. Like we said after Nelson got hurt, right? We both said we thought Eddie Lacy was at worst the third most important player on this team, if not the second most important. Mm-hmm. They need to implement that. They need to put that into action. They need to make him important. Whereas I don't think they really have so far this year.
Yeah.
And he's been hurt too, which hasn't helped anything. But
it's the game plan's there. All right. So if we're coaching the team, we know how to run it.
That's what I think. Make us the coaches.
Yeah. Why not? We already kind of talked about Carolina, what they have to do to beat the Packers. Realistically, we're getting to the point in the podcast we can start talking about picks. Can Carolina pull this off? I'm looking. Let me look right now. Do you know what the line is for this game? Packers should be an underdog, right?
I guess I'd be cheating because I saw. Unless it's moved, is it still Green Bay -2.5?
I honestly don't know. I am asking you. I'm looking.
Oh, you don't know?
Now.
Okay.
No, we're not doing the Bill Simmons Uncle Sal.
No, no. I thought it was.
Sal.
I thought I saw it was Green Bay -2.5, but.
Yep, it's still Green Bay -2.5.
They're favorites again on the road. It's
over under a 46.5. I'll gladly take the under.
I will take the under on that. I'd be shocked there's that many points scored.
Yeah. So Carolina's a home dog. That has to motivate them a little bit. So can they pull the home upset?
Carolina?
Yeah.
Can they pull the? Oh yeah, they could be Green Bay. Are we getting to picks now? Or are we?
I think we're gonna. I think we're getting to that point. Yeah.
Kind of sliding into it as normally we're just like it's time for picks. We're just kind of like we're at the pick segment.
Yeah.
Can they? Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. Up until this afternoon, I was ready to pick Carolina. Was going to pick Carolina because, like I said, I'm not thrilled with where the Packers are at in pretty much any area of their game right now. And I was impressed with Carolina, and I've been impressed with Carolina every time I've watched them. So with that said, do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I'll go first.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I'll be controversial.
Okay.
I think Green Bay's going to lose this game.
Really?
What confidence do you have in this offense and Rodgers and McCarthy based off last week, going on the road against another good defense, well-coached team? Yeah, maybe I want to be pleasantly surprised. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe I want to be pleasantly surprised.
Have you ever picked the Packers to lose on this before?
Maybe, I don't know.
Okay.
Let's go back and listen. Do I think it's going to be big of a train wreck as last week? No, but I have real concerns about this offense. Now, I think the one player who can make a big difference, and we talked about a little bit already, besides the obvious of running the football, and that's going to be a Starks and Lacey combination, is can we have the Devontae Adams of last year? When we have that, that's a game changer. Right now, Rodgers has no one to throw to. He has Randall Cobb. You take Randall Cobb out of this equation, which, I mean, you can't really do that, but say you did, Green Bay's receivers are just as awful as Carolina's right now.
Oh, worse, because they don't even have a Greg Olsen type.
No.
They'd be worse without Cobb, yeah.
I'm thinking Carolina wins this game 19-14. I just think Cam makes enough plays. I think they're going to struggle against the run. I want to be pleasantly surprised, but I think Carolina wins this game. I think Green Bay falls to 6-2. Skies are falling in title town, and rightfully so. But then they get Detroit after that, so it should.
And then they get Detroit and win by 50, and everybody will be like, "We're going to the Super Bowl."
Yeah. No, I'm picking Green Bay to lose. I'll be controversial.
You know what? No, and I don't. I mean, I'm not gonna. I can't fault you for that. Like I said, like up until literally this afternoon when I was driving home from work, I was like, I think I'm gonna pick Carolina to win tonight because I don't like anywhere Green Bay's at. Like you said, I have real concerns about this offense, real concerns about the defense. I have concerns about the coaching, the scheming, the game plan. I don't like anything about where this Packers team is at. I'm picking them to win, and here's why. Because this is gut check city right here. This is show me what you're made of. Do you want to be a Super Bowl team, or do you want to be a team that fattens itself up on the garbage squads, goes 11-5, and loses in the first round of the playoffs? Because I think this Sunday might kind of be the fork in the road on that. If they lose Sunday, they're probably, like I said, the 11-5 team that's a paper tiger. But if you want to be a real team, you want to be a team that can rebound and get to the Super Bowl, because like New England last year, right? Blown out on Monday Night Football, and I think it was week 3, 41-14. Are they going to bench Tom Brady? Is this the beginning of the end? It was as bad for the Pats as it is for the Packers right now. And the Pats got their shit together, got hot, regained their footing. We all know how the story ends. So for the Packers, it's which road do you want to take? And as much as I want to say they're going to lose, I'm going to pick them to win. Just because I think, I don't even really know why. I think just because I'm going to give them one more week.
Yeah.
We'll see. And I think they will run the ball. I think they'll have success running the ball. I don't think Rodgers will get quite back to where he was in the early part of the year passing, but I think the passing game will regain its footing enough. Defensively, I think they'll come out and play with more fire. Like you said, Cam is good, but he's not Peyton Manning. So when you add it all up, I have the Packers winning this game. Are you ready for this? 21-20.
That'd be exciting.
I'm picking them to win by 1 effing point. That's how much I believe in this team right now.
Unfortunately, we get Buck and Aikman this game, don't we?
I would imagine, yeah.
Yeah, because CBS has the late
Buck
game.
and Aikman, and then did you see the Viking game got flexed?
Yeah, that's exciting.
It's exciting. I guess Fox protected it. I think NBC wanted to move it to Sunday night, but Fox blocked it.
Yeah, because I think because they wanted that game Sunday night, but they had to settle for Arizona and Cincinnati, which is not a bad consolation.
That should be a pretty good game.
Arizona plays. They have a bye this week, but then their next 2 games are Sunday night. So we just see a lot of Carson Palmer coming out.
You think that do you think that game gets flexed, that Packer Cardinal game, or do you think Fox will?
I think one of the last Packer games of the year is going to get flexed. I don't think Fox can protect both the Packers-Cowboys and Packers-Cardinals.
I'm going to the Cowboy game, so
I think that's the game Fox protects.
So then you think it's Packers Cardinals on Sunday?
Well, the other options that week would be, I love my schedules.
Oh, you do?
Because the game right there is Steelers at Ravens. That has to
That'll
get
get
flexed
moved
out
out.
because Ravens are too bad, even though that's a rivalry game. There's the top game that week's Bengals and Broncos, but that's on Monday night. You're looking at Carolina and the Falcons, Rams and Seahawks. Depending on how the Rams do, I think the Seahawks will probably be in the mix till the end. Patriots and Jets. So it's gonna be they have options there. I don't see how Fox leaves the Cowboys-Packers game unprotected, especially with Romo being back and how much of a train wreck the NFC East is.
And Dallas at that point is going to be, I don't know what week it is. They're going to be like 5-8 fighting for their lives.
Yeah.
Well, what with 13, 27? So that's week 15.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, and I mean the Sunday night game there is Seahawks
14,
at Ravens.
So week 14. So I bet you Dallas will be like 5-8.
Yeah.
Yeah, needing to win out to win the NFC East. So Fox won't go in that game.
Yeah. Yeah, Fox is going to hold that game, and because it's Cowboys-Packers, they can put Buck and Aikman. Here's the other thing you got to look at with Fox, and this is one of the reasons I think the Cardinals and Bengals got picked because that was going to be a CBS game, I believe, maybe.
Yeah.
If you flex out a game, it has to be a replacement. So Fox has the doubleheader that week, Cowboys and Packers, and there's not a good another. Well, you could do Falcons and Panthers maybe for NBC, but you're looking at Steelers and Bengals as probably the option. That's an early game on CBS. They'll probably be flexing this Sunday night, and they'll move the Seahawks at Ravens into that CBS spot early.
Right.
That's probably what's going to happen because the Steelers are going to be in the mix till the end.
I was going to ask you because you live in Minneapolis. What is the talk there? Do the Vikings fans are they acting like there's blood in the water now in the NFC North?
The few I've talked with at work this week, no. I think they're more confident about then, hey, we're going to be in the playoff mix, than they can topple the Packers. Because I think, I haven't really talked to a whole lot of Vikings fans yet this week.
Or even just like listening to the fan, what are they saying?
I haven't listened to the fan that much this week either.
Okay.
I kind of turned away on Monday and Tuesday. I'll be honest.
Well, I don't blame you.
Some podcasts lists coming into work, but
because I was thinking like that was the one thought one of the things I was thinking as that game was getting out of hand on Sunday night. I was like, I bet all the Vikings fans in the Twin Cities are acting like, oh, blood's in the water now. We're only a game back. It's like, hey, calm down.
I think they realized Bridgewater is still in our center, and he looked pretty awful on Sunday.
Right, they've like barely defeated the Lions and the Vikings the Lions and the Bears the last 2 weeks. So
I think it will be more for real. The Vikings get the Rams this week, so that's going to be a tough goal.
Did you see they have the toughest schedule in the league
Yes.
over the remaining stretch?
Yes, and I don't think that has. I think a lot of not a fan. I think they do realize that.
They still have to play Green Bay twice, Arizona,
Atlanta, Seattle,
the Giants,
and
St. Louis.
St. Louis, yeah, it ain't easy for the Vikings coming up. I mean, they play at Oakland. Oakland's now also a halfway decent team.
I said on Sunday, I'm like, if Packer fans had that Oakland game in the easy win category, move that over to the this might be tougher than you expect category, because I actually think Oakland is a pretty good football team.
Let's put it this way. The Vikings have one game remaining on a team that's not going to be in the playoff mix, and that's Week 15 when they get the Bears at home. Because they get St. Louis. St. Louis will be in the mix. Oakland's in the mix now. Packers twice. Seahawks will be in the mix. Atlanta's in the mix. Arizona's in the mix. The Giants will be in the mix.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough stretch. So I know the Packers have a tough stretch too, but not quite as bad. We at least get Detroit twice, But I mean, it's not an easy stretch for Green Bay. Outside of the 2 Detroit games and the Chicago game, that's it. Like the other 6, I mean, the 2 Vikings games, Arizona, Carolina, Oakland, and Dallas. I think those are all going to be at least fairly difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's like I'm saying, like, kind of just to wrap up my thoughts. That's what I mean when I say, like, all we know about this team so far is that they're good at fattening themselves up on crappy teams or crappy to decent teams. And the only good team they played kicked the shit out of them. So, it's a fork in the road this week, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be... Yeah.
I hope they win. God, I hate those years where they're like 11-5 and you know they're a paper tiger. I hate those years. I hope this isn't one of those.
Even with that loss, they can still get the 12 wins pretty easily.
Oh, I would think. Yeah.
Even if my prediction comes true this week they lose this week, they may have one more loss on the schedule. They could easily go 13-3.
Well, that's what we predict. I think we both had him going. I know I had him going 13-3. So.
Yeah. Well, we'll see where we stand after next week. This is the first time in years where we have been conflicted.
Yeah, I'm just thinking now. I know in 2010 when we were a 3-man pod, I picked them to lose against the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't remember how you picked. Or Gene. I know Gene picked them to lose also.
I don't remember either.
I'd have to go back and find it. But I know I picked them to lose. So I've done it before, but I can't remember how you did. So yeah, this might be the first time we've ever been conflicted. So there you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So until next week, I'm Adam Somers.
I'm Chris Lempesis.
Go Pack, go! Prove me wrong.
Please don't lose.
This Green Bay Packers podcast is brought to you by Mayfield Sports Marketing, our official sports marketing agent for player appearances. To book a Packers player for your next event, go to PackersTalk.com and click on Player Appearances. Are you looking for some signed Packer memorabilia?
Look no further than Waukesha Sports Cards.
If the Green Bay Packer can sign it, Waukesha Sports Cards has it.
Check our website for upcoming Packer player and legend signings.
Go to WaukeshaSportsCards.com.